do you or follow along, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. I make the rules, I don't play along. I do whatever I want, and I ain't asking you if I'm right or wrong. I do whatever I want, stuck in your head like a song. I'm both the king and the calm, so sticky 'cause I got the sauce. I'm everything on the menu, so dope that I'm breaking the news, and I ain't got nothing to prove. So you can do you or follow along, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. I make the rules, I don't play along. I do whatever I want, and I ain't asking you if I'm right or wrong. I do whatever I want. I do whatever I want. I do whatever I want. I ain't gonna listen to you. I'm too busy making the move for number one, not number two. Baby, you know I'm the boss. If I want it, I want it all. I win it, whatever the cost. So you can do you or follow along, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. I make the rules, I don't play along. I do whatever I want, and I ain't asking you if I'm right or wrong. I do whatever I want, stuck in your head like a song. I'm both the king and the calm, so sticky 'cause I got the sauce. I'm everything on the menu, so dope that I'm breaking the news, and I ain't got nothing to prove. So you can do you or follow along, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. I make the rules, I don't play along. I do whatever I want, and I ain't asking you if I'm right or wrong. I do whatever I want. I do whatever I want. I do whatever I want. I ain't gonna listen to you. I'm too busy making the move for number one, not number two. Baby, you know I'm the boss. If I want it, I want it all. I win it, whatever the cost. So you can do you or follow along, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. I make the rules, I don't play along. I do whatever I want, and I ain't asking you if I'm right or wrong. I do whatever I want, stuck in your head like a song. I'm both the king and the calm, so sticky 'cause I got the sauce. I'm everything on the menu, so dope that I'm breaking the news, and I ain't got
Hello, can everybody hear me? Okay, welcome to SpeedTree Live, and we are in the third rendition of what we've been working on this game tree. And just gonna make sure I'm all connected up and everybody can... There we go. Okay, so what I've done, since we picked up last week, we added our clusters and shaped them to the tree. I did a little tweaking in here throughout the week because I know we were going to move on to bigger, better things. And so I did a little bit of that, and I added our seasons in. We did that a couple weeks ago with the with the VFX tree as well. But all I did was export some different variations of the colors. And on a game tree, you pick which season you would like to export out as. Now, the more variations you have with these seasonal textures, they're all going to have to fit in your atlas. So it's actually better to have less transition and keep your keep your colors more in one block of the timeline. And got a question already, but I can't see my stream chat. I'll come back to that. I think there's a question coming in, but for some reason my... So for on this tree, and we are going to start today with just a simple task of exporting this into Unreal Engine. And I'm going to start with that and then close Unreal Engine down so that we can work on the rest of the tree, because there's still some missing things on this that we did not add last week. So we've got our seasons tree, and I've exported a couple of these already. We're actually going to demo the exporting in a different modeler. This is a variation that I've made. And we're going to go ahead and send this straight to Unreal Engine. You're going to go to File, Export to Game. On the Unreal modelers, you're going to have just one option there, just export. And then on SpeedTree for Games, you're going to have more options there because it does quite a bit more here. And so this is the games version. We're going to do Unreal. And we're going to call this one the Silver Birch as well. And if you're using the Unreal modeler, there's not a preset drop down, but if you're using the games modeler, we're going to select for Unreal Engine. Now, one draw call would place everything in my atlas, and that's gonna be for the quicker trees. A lot of times I like to do a row of trees in the background, or the trees that you don't want taking a lot of space. And those would be the ones that you would send out with your one draw call. Now I'm going to do a little bit bigger just because this is our showy tree with the bottom there. And I'm keeping my texture size kind of low for right now. And we're going to hit OK. And I'm missing the question. Hang on one second. This is video. I'm not quite sure. I think we'll wait for clarification on that because I'm not quite sure I understand that question. Okay, took it a little bit. We're going to go ahead and close down the modeler. And here is our Unreal scene. And because I've been working in here, it automatically asks me if I want to import them. If you haven't been working in the modeler and it hasn't already found your folder, then you would simply hit import and grab it. But since it wants to grab it right now, I'm going to go ahead and import it. And it's going to ask me a couple questions. I want to include collusion, which we haven't set yet, and we want to create the materials. Now, this scene, I am not a pro at Unreal Engine whatsoever. I grabbed the Park Pack, which is free from Unreal, which is real sweet. I knocked out all of the trees, and I have been slowly and steadily just building my own, sticking in my speed trees. And so we'll let it take some seconds. It very, very, very slow. I'm going to try to answer that question that we had coming in about atlasing. And we have questions about optimization for our UVs. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to cover your question or not. I feel like what you might be asking is if you are atlasing beforehand. And one of the things that we strongly suggest, I guess, is keeping everything separate. Export out your leaf cluster textures and then let the atlas and everything get pulled in through or whatever. And then let me just check. There we go. I'm not quite sure if I missed that question or not. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. We just brought in our tree and we told it yes and yes, and we've got it in here. It's the silver birch. Now you can drag and drop these and single place them, which is what I did with the bushes and this bay, and this is our Italian cypress. Or you can paint these in. So for this one, we're just gonna find a nice spot for it. I think that one was that guy there. We're just gonna I've got a dog saying hello to me. Sorry about the beeping. More people joining in. Hello, everybody. That is my power cutting off, and I can mute myself right now. I think I can unmute myself. We had a little power issue there. I grabbed the wrong thing and dumped it on the wrong thing. So that happened. Here we have our tree. You can move it. You can use the WER keys to tilt and put this exactly where you want it. And obviously that's not super great of a place, but it works. This is more of a hero tree. It's about 50k, and so you want to be very sparing with these guys. You wouldn't want to pull it all over the place. Now your other content, if you want to paint a speed tree, you're going to go to modes, foliage, and open up your foliage editor here. You can drag and drop. So I've got a new folder for my ground cover. And I brought in a little bush and a bunch of stuff in there and the flowers in there. And I've already got them loaded in up here. So if I'm going to go in and add some more, there's a little section up here that doesn't have any flowers. I have the paint tool on. I've got the size really, really big right now. And I'm going to just sprinkle in some of these poppies or cosmos or whatever flowers these are. And I'll take the big tree out for a second. Making sure I didn't have anything else selected. And so now I can get this guy in there. It did not like how tiny I made that, apparently. I'm still muted. I'm going to go over our Atlas stuff and space that the textures take up, but I'm going to wait until I have SpeedTree back up because I closed down my modeler for right now. And sorry, I keep having to mute. I'm having some technical difficulty apparently. But we are going to cover that about how to make sure everything is in a good spot in the Atlas, and also some of our new options for the Atlas and V9. All right, sorry about that. I've got my paintbrush going, I've got the flowers in there, and I'm just gonna sprinkle in a couple of those just to show you the paint tool. And now that my computer has kind of caught back up a little bit, I'm gonna pop down in here and just kind of show you this for a second. My mic cut out again. But that's all we really want to do in Unreal Engine. There's obviously some very talented people out there that can show you around and we'll probably do a bigger scene at a later date about concentrating on how to fill in spaces or how to place and how to frame, more of like an arty tree post there. So that being said, we can kill Unreal and go ahead and open our modeler back up. And I got more people come in with lots of text. We'll let that close down whenever it's ready and the modeler is ready to go. Okay, we are back in SpeedTree 9, and I'm just going to enter straight into his question about the UV area. Complicated questions coming in about UV tiling. The first thing I want to show you is that your Atlas has a scale for each of the textures, so if you need the texture to take up less space in there, you can always scale these down or scale another one up to make sure that your more important texture takes up more room. In V9, we have a cool little neato thingy here. It's going to let you show the Atlas and it's going to let you preview it. You're going to be able to move this around and customize it any way you want. If you need to turn these guys, you can do that. We had a lot of requests for custom atlases in the past. You can see that I have tiled my bark a lot. And this is all for a shared one. So if you wanted to have certain things in one atlas and certain ones in another atlas, we now have way you can do a branch, and you can add a second atlas if you want to atlas all of your textures together or atlas all of your leaves together. And let's see, just catching up on the chat here. Just questions about... I can only read part of the chat. It's like covering enough, so we'll just keep going now. Okay, so the part of the tree that we had not finished before we sent it out was LODs. So we're going to start with that. You can see I have a slider already in there, and if you don't have a slider already placed in there, you're going to go to Global Properties and turn Dynamic LOD on. I'm just going to do 3 tiers. It's the easiest for what we've added in, especially if you have a mesh. That's not. So to set the LODs, you're going to be, I recommend backing up about midway, and you're going to use the slider to compare how they look. And right now I've got the tree disappearing on the last LOD, and that means that the trunk is being lost. So on that first tier, I'm going to go back to Global Properties, and I'm going to say I'm losing too many of the branches. I'm going to bump that up, and this trunk is super, super duper duper important. So I'm going to put, in the LOD section of properties, I'm going to put the weight up to like a 10, because we never ever want this to go away. Now, I can choose while I'm editing this whether I want everything to dynamically lose polygons as they go down. Now, the more I lose in link segments, the more jerky the tree is going to get as I LOD. But radial segments are probably okay to lose as long as I don't get too gnarly down here. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this down. And we're going to make sure that our trunk stays this time. And it looks like we're in good shape. Now, the next thing I see is that I'm getting a pop. And that is because we set our LODs with the leaf clusters last week. And this leaf cluster is popping a little too much because there's not enough in there. And showed me the wrong material with that guy. We'll go to the cutouts instead. So I might be, am I missing audio? Catching up on the chat there. So, all right. So our leaf cluster here, which was, let's just look at this guy. Let's just kind of see what we did last week. I made a snake, and it's popping because I have fold and curl on this leaf. And so as I lose polygons, it can't fold or curl the same way that it was before. Usually it's not too bad. It only really shows up when you have, when you're jumping to like 2 polygons at the end or something like that. Let's just take a look at the bigger one and see what it looks like. So yeah, I do kind of pop there. And so on that last one, I could, if I wanted, add another polygon back in to make it less jumpy. We could try it with 3 and see how we do there. And let's just see if that helps us out a little bit. It also might be in the bare branch. And that helped us still get that pop there at the end. So we can counter that also by going to the LOD slider over here in Global Properties. And we are going to say, the LOD properties, and we're going to say not to bring that mesh all the way to the bottom because the pop is just killing it. So that means it'll stop on LOD2, which for our cases is probably okay. And for some reason, it's just really liking to take the trunk back out. We'll fix that one in a second. It should not be taking the trunk back out, but it is. We'll just play around with the weights a little bit. And so these are also very important branches because if you miss one of these guys down at the bottom, it's going to be pretty noticeable. They seem to be kind of hanging tight in a good way. So I'm going to kind of leave those be. And we kept the trunk that time, so it just fudging the number a little bit helped it out. On the leaves for the LODs, you want some variation in the weight of the leaves. Like, you don't want one section to win over the other. So on your leaf meshes or on your fronds, you want to make sure that that number always has a variable in it. I think our templates do. Not quite sure if they did in V8, but that's good to keep in mind. If I were to take this number out right now, let's just show you what happens just for kicks and giggles. That's not supposed to happen. It looks like we just hit a bug there. That's okay. We're gonna open back up and see if we can get it back. This is the beta of 9, so bugs are abounding, but we're nailing them down. All right, let's start that over. Okay, I think that taking that value out decided, I think doing multiples is what triggered that, so we'll kind of have to look in that later. Let's see if that works. All right, so I don't know if you noticed, but what happened there is I lost all of the upper first, and then the bottom stayed, because that's the one that decided 1. And so that little bit of variation in there really helps it out. And we will just see if that works. I don't know why we're getting that every now and again, but it seems to be a just sometimes happen thing. All right, so that last little pop there was what we moved in the last one there. Excuse me. We made sure that that middle leaf did not go all the way down. That's what that was. All right, you can also change the size of the leaves. So if you need to take out more of them, say you need to go down even farther than this, so I still have, I think it's catching the weight at random there. There we go. And you'll notice that those little side details definitely lost, but so this is not dropped very much so far. I think we can get rid of a lot more and drop it even more, because it's only going down to 30,000 there. Have to re-stress, get my stream stuff going there so I could read the comments. Right, so there we go there. It's not a bad shape, getting a little big up there. So let's try to knock out a couple more of these. I'm gonna go global properties and just knock out a few more of the leaves. I'm going to take out the smaller ones by coming up here and saying that this one should be a 2 and this one should be a 10. I'm gonna ignore that it went away for a second. Hopefully it comes back. And it did not. Let's see if we can get it back by undo. Something seems to be triggering it with the weight, so we'll figure that one out as we go. And now we've lost too many leaves because I just adjusted the bar there, so that was definitely too many. We're gonna put it back up for now and see how we do there. And we're just gonna keep hitting that bug so until we get rid of it. There we go. All right, one of the things down here at the bottom that you can do is This screen area is the best way to judge after you kind of slid the slider up and down a few times. I like to put it on the far distance and just kind of see how my transition does this way. And really, if it's not noticeable from that, you're in pretty good shape. It's just very, very smooth in transitioning. Now, you see that problem where I look like I kind of have some floating things going on out here? It's because it's on a very, very thin, teeny tiny cutout. And so you can kind of counter that by making the leaves a little bit bigger when you go to leaf properties and scale it just a little bit more to fill up the space. This is especially true for if you have a huge broadleaf. You're going to be using the curve on these weights and the scales because you might want to keep the canopy nice and full. So if you want to do that, then you would end up scaling the ones in the middle of the branch, look something like that. And then go ahead and say that they would get bigger in the middle and then kind of try to match that in size there. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, the other thing that you need to check on before you get it to Unreal Engine is going to be, we're gonna have to open up for our second there. We're gonna be using the regular modeler just because they're the same and we have some guaranteed results. I'll give it just a second to fire up there. I'm gonna see if I have any questions hanging out. I'm so glad we have people in the feed today. Just nice to see people. I think you guys are discussing just preferences and LEDs, and there's definitely a lot of different ways to do this. Just showing you one different variable there. I should add that a lot of studios do custom a mesh, and the dynamic LED where they smoothly transition won't work for if it's a static mesh. So those tend to be a little poppier, and you can counter that by loading in some extra LEDs. And you can actually keyword with spine only, catching up there. If you need to add more than one LOD, you would go in this mesh cutout here, but you can actually name these guys. I'm in the right modeler, just forgot. Make it a little bigger so that we can see. Let's see if this guy did not want to open. I think I just have too many things going on my desktop all at once. Okay, we're getting a question about, are the normals matched across the LODs? So since your mesh matches one material, doing that. Your normal goes to the highest LOD. So if you were going to do something where you had a different normal for each, you would have to duplicate the material and switch it out that way. So definitely a lot more time consuming. I hope that answers it. And I got another question coming in about subsurface color, which is not quite related to what we're doing, but that's completely okay. All right, so these maps for like if you went and got a let's go ahead and open the cluster file because I have individual leaves there. This is where you would be loading that in. All right. Honestly, the subsurface, because these are tiny little game leaves, same goes for cinema as well though. It's really not the end of the world to reuse the color map. Give that a second. So, say you didn't have anything that loaded in there. You can take that subsurface color and just grab the color map again and make it a little bit brighter. It saved my settings from last times. A little bit brighter than you need to. Like there's no need, you can just use the color map again. It's sort of just emulate light coming through it. If you want to paint this, you can take it into Photoshop and add a gradient on it, and that's really good to do for our game trees because these guys get so tiny when you send them out. When you're actually looking at it on the tree, these guys are, you're gonna lose a lot of the texture just depending on the size that they are. So for the subsurface, you don't have the subsurface amount. This is a bad map anyways. It's so bright that I don't have any detail in here. Sometimes I will use the height, or sometimes I will generate my own using the color map. I would just bring this into Photoshop, make it black and white, and I would boost my levels. So a good subsurface mat is going to kind of block out the veins a little bit. On a game tree, I did this for the AO. I put a gradient on it, but something like this for the subsurface amount is also not a bad idea. You can block that value too and test that light when you're in the cluster mode. If you flip the light up like that, which these are neon right now, you can see the amount of detail that you're getting through each one. And so on this guy, I don't really have a whole lot going there. That's the wrong leaf. So if I did that same thing, so this one I just loaded in the color map itself and then boosted the brightness a little bit and inverted it so that the veins would be dark and then the leaf would be bright. It's still a little, too bright, and I could go in and grab that same map that I made with the AO. And that gradient is inverted. So that gradient will make it look like the light shining through just the end of the leaf. I wouldn't do anything so extreme on these cluster file leaves just because you're not going to be able to see it. And I kind of faked a little bit by instead of cutting down on the light coming through with the subsurface map, I actually tweaked some of these guys so that the AO had a gradient on it. It might have been in my other cluster file there, but if you grab these guys and swip it out with that gradient as well, it just gives your cluster a little like nice multifaceted look. There's lots of cheats that people do here, and it depends on like what the lighting looks like and the level that you're creating as well. Game clusters are just not the time to be completely correct when it comes to the actual lighting that you're putting in the scene or whatever. You really just need to aim for what looks best in the scene. One of the things that AO does a lot in the game engine is it cuts down on all the available light that you have coming through, and so when you have teeny tiny leaves, you can get dark real fast. And the main objective for these guys is that you want them to look sparkly from far away, and you want to be able to like use depth of field to make this look fuzzy and round like a canopy. And I'm catching up to the questions. Okay. I think that answers your question. I hope it does. And we can always come back to it. I think I missed that. Okay, let's see if we can get our other model to open. Maybe it will work this time. Here we go. And that tree. Just stay in this one until we get it. All right, the next thing we're going to be doing is setting the collision objects. This is so that you don't run straight through the tree. And Unreal Engine will import these. That's what we checked boxed at the very beginning of the game. It said, do you want the collision objects on there? You're going to hit collision objects. I don't have one in the tree. It starts you off with 3. For this tree, we don't need 3. I'm just going to delete the circle. And you can actually ask it to generate these. I find that it's a little overkill, but it'll get you in the right spot. I'm going to change this one to a capsule and then just go ahead and delete these guys. I just think 2 is enough. And just to answer, kind of go back a second. I think there was some questions about popping branches. The popping should have been, that's just only custom meshes, but when you have SpeedTree geometry, some reason hiding is triggering my trunk to disappear. So I don't know what that one's all about. That was a weird one. All right, well, we won't go back to that there. I can show you as soon as this other modeler. Here we go. I think it's not liking the file for some reason. I'm having a hard time with the tech today. Some days you win, some days you don't. I'm just gonna open a blank for a second. There we go, we're back. And I need to make this side, sorry guys. I will show you the SpeedTree geometry in just a second. We're gonna go back to our tree, which was it's because I was opening the wrong file. That kind of narrowed it down then. All right. Just give it a second to open. Sorry, my computer's hollering so much. The streaming's sending it out. So, hopefully once we get this guy open, it will be back up and running. I guess I've got the cluster file still working if we want to keep working in here. I think that answered your question about the subsurface. I don't know why my alternate tree is not opening. So we are going to open a file that I know works. That's one of our old trees, and see if we can get it open that way. And we're just gonna discard what we were working on there. I had a variation of that tree that was ready for SpeedTree 8, and I don't know what was going on. I just had it open. So Here we are. This is one of our regular models that you can buy on the stores, the Quaking Aspen. It's kind of super similar to the one we were making, just species-wise. People get aspens and birches mixed up all the time. All right, we were setting collision objects, and we would try to do this without anything crashing or disappearing or going away. All right, these guys, you can move around in the objects by pushing the WER screen space keys, just like any old force or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward. That's kind of all you need. That's pretty much all there is. The other thing that we want to make sure are set are the light maps. We're going to render and light map. And this is going to demonstrate we want our trunk area to be in the green and our leaves to be in the blue area. And you set this by going to all. Properties, all, and then light map. And so if I didn't have these set on this tree, you basically want to fill up as much of your light map box as you can. If you have a layout of something tiny that you don't want to take up a lot of space, just lost it. There we go. You can change the weight of these guys. So all of your leaves are pretty much going to be set to 0, and you're pretty much only going to control the weight for the main bark and trunk. So this one here, you can click on these and they correspond. If I wanted to try to inch this way up to the corner and see if I could get more space taken out, I could go to the light map and bump up the weight. It's already up pretty tall. And doing that, you'll see the colors change. So now I'm saying that I don't have enough room for that. And so I'm going to back it back down. And so it's in its happy place. And this is really not a bad amount up here. And so those are pretty straightforward. And those will go out with the tree when you're finished. The last thing we want to talk about today for this stream, got about 15 minutes left, is the wind. We are going to put it back in the normal mode. And the wind on this tree has been set. This is going to be, you'll notice I'm in the games edition, so I have a couple different versions of wind. We're setting this for the Unreal Engine. We also have an SDK wind and a Lumberyard wind, and they all kind of run a little bit differently. In V9, we have custom vertex in, procedural vertex painting in V8, if you want to do it that way, which is very similar to the Lumberyard wind. It's based on vertex colors, but we also added painting in V9, so if you had something very similar to that. So we're going to set this just for Unreal for right now. Honestly, the best thing to do, if this has no wind on it whatsoever, is to run the wind wizard. It sounds stupid, but it'll just get you set up so much more faster. It's going to set the values and the weights in there for you. So this is technically a shade tree, but because it is so tall, and I think I actually put these guys on palm, and this is kind of a misnomer for the wind, is you want to check all wind qualities of all of your conditions. And so all of these are combinations of how fast your wind is moving and if gusting is on. I like to just run it on breezy. And then for trees that you need to maybe do your one draw call background trees and they're not on the main course of the game, you might want to favor speed over quality. Quality is going to be 2 levels and the speed is going to be like 1. If you have speed set on the palm, I think it doesn't let you have that extra level there. And then we're going to tell the leaves that they are actually leaves. And I don't have anything extra on the tree, but if I had like a knot or a decoration in here, you need to make sure it's set to the right thing so that it doesn't move. I'm gonna hit OK and just see where that got me, and it's mostly same. I feel like there's a little too much flittering up here, and that's probably supposed to be the word fluttering, but we'll make up a new one just for this. Okay, so for right off the bat there, I have the wind on with gusting, and right now you can see this is breezy and this is like hurricane. And so in a hurricane, we really want gale force everything to really kind of blow over. If you were doing a scene in like a mad tropical storm here, put it all the way to 1, but make your ending animation like really, really extreme. Height exponent is the first thing to fix if you've got any wonkiness. This is saying it's taking into account how tall the tree is and how far down the trunk it is before you sort of start that bending motion. And so it's up pretty tall on this one. If I were to move this down to the bottom, it could bend faster, like over the whole tree. This would be very, very low on things like grass and very, very high for the taller your tree gets. So if I wanted to make this a super hurricane tree, you're editing all of your curves based on slow wind, hurricane wind. And so I could bump up the bend and the direction adherence and let it go nuts that way, or it might pick up speed. Now, you'll notice that all of these curves are tapered off, and that is because this animation, if it doesn't have time to get through, you'll see things jump. If I took out this little smooth point there and made a really weird curve, you'll notice that the animation is going to be really bad. It's probably like different, more apparent in the distance, I guess, would be. I'm just going to demonstrate this to show you how to make bad wind. It's how you get good wind. So all of these curves should be pretty smooth. You'll see it. That's not my computer lagging right there. That is the scalar moving back and forth, and it can't keep up. It can't do the animations fast. I'm gonna put this back. Didn't mean to make a weird sound effect, but there it was. All right, so sorry, I'm double tapping these and I'm just dragging the sliders out to smooth them out. A lot of people run into that on the timeline as well. Game does not export the timeline animation, but if you're doing this for VFX, that the smoother those are, the better. All right, so I am on hurricane wind. I want to check out what we're doing on breezy. It does kind of have to run through the cycle there, so if the wind doesn't catch up right away, just give it a second and it will kind of like reset itself. One thing we didn't talk about here is global motion is going to be what you set first. If you were starting this from scratch and not using the Wind Wizard, this is going to be the motion for the whole tree no matter what you're doing. Now, I like getting this kind of in a slow, steady, good position that's not too crazy. And then we're going to put the height exponent back up. And then, check out that. I like to set from the start with gusting off if you're setting this from scratch and you don't want to use a Wind Wizard. It's easier to see what the tree is doing if you have gusting off and then add that extra animation in at the end. Levels. You're gonna see a level 2 in here, but Unreal Engine right now only supports that one level, I believe. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong. I think I've got some in-depth questions about... Got a question about bones and a question about packing winds. Let's see. And how to hide the background in main. Let me just see, Christoph, if you want to tell me what, can you clarify what you mean by the background? I'll catch up to that in a second there. I guess some of these might be a little intense for trying to speak it out. To answer Luciano's question, he's asking, so can I export a skeletal mesh from SpeedTree 9 with bones? That's going to be an FBX export, and you're going to have to, so in our game trees that we sell in the store, we put very minimal bones in here. You can view these by showing the bones, and it's going to show you these weird little triangle thingies in there. So each of these is your hinge. And these are what will go out in the tree. You can hit all on each of these branch levels and click as many as you need in there. It's going to be under physics. And then you're going to set. Now, I like on the game trees to keep these very minimal. I almost would never ever put any in the upper branches unless I was doing something very, very specific. And keep in mind that if you do an FBX export with the bones and you're planning on doing some sort of animation, like taking it into Houdini to do like a break or something like that, you will lose our locked in wind when you put it back in your game. So there's some things there that you have to consider, like if you're going to do a different kind of alternate animation there, you kind of have to pick and choose what you're going to put in there. These bones catching up to the chat, sorry about that. Sorry, these bones on export also, if you go export to game for Unreal, you go see, sorry about that, export to game, FBX, you're gonna see that option show up for bones and skeletal right here. So many conversations going. Oh, so that's how you would get that guy out when you export that. Okay, I hope that answers your question. I'm going to turn bones back off. I think I did. Nope. And then we're back to that. Just to finish up on wind, the other thing that you have that you can set for each of these guys to make it less weird, say there's something funky going on at the end of the branch here. Each of your branches has a wind weight. You're going to go to the animation tab, and this is also how you turn on and off. So say I wanted these guys to blow in the wind down here at the bottom, I could allow them to move. Obviously it looks like a little waving snowman now, so we don't really want that, but that's how we turn them on. And let's just go to the one that has it. If I set the tree to have a having a discussion about okay, so if I want to have ones that are more susceptible to the wind, say the ones towards the bottom or something like that, or if I had like a vine hanging off of the branch here, I might need the weight to be up really, really high, or I might need the weight to be turned down. So right now I've got some weird wiggling down at the bottom. We'll just turn those down a little bit, and we're gonna say according to the height of the trunk on the bottom of the tree, I'm just gonna set the weight a little lower and get a little less movement from the stiff branches down there. I'm not sure that the tree really needed it, but it'll help. a neat trick to do in a game is to have the top doing a lot of movement, and then where the player is walking on the bottom, turn down the wiggling so that you don't have this giant thing in your face wiggling back and forth. Smaller movements down here is sometimes a little better. The fluttering of the leaves, kind of skipped over that when we were in the other section there. That's going to be down in the leaf motion. And we are going to... The clusters moving in the wind, they don't look good when you're zoomed in on them. You want to look at the action of back here. There's just lots of distance things here. If you had a tree that you're going to be right up on and you want it to blow in the wind, you might consider having some smaller cluster pieces in it. And that way the clusters, you could have individual leaves kind of doing different actions there. If I had 2 sets of leaf clusters and I needed a different motion, unfortunately you have the one available. I keep clicking a tab on accident. You only have the one ripple motion available. So like on a cinema tree you have 2, I think. And you could do a lot more with some different motions there. But on that one, I would set it for the big clusters to make that look okay. And then on the little clusters, I could bump up or bump down the weight. It's just the easiest way to go around it. I think these are pretty self-explanatory. You can wiggle these guys and make them do what they want. Frequency obviously is going to make it flutter more, and if you want to do an underwater tree, you're going to slow the frequency down and have it move a lot. So you could have these guys wiggle and sway a lot more. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes what wind sort of actually is a very abstract thought. It really does help to actually like go outside and look at the trees and look at what they do. When I was first studying wind, when I was learning all this, I had a tendency to make everything look like it was underwater, and that is just too slow frequency. So actually, frequency actually helps you out and makes you, it look a little bit more like a fluttery, like these guys aren't all on the same cluster file there. One of the last things that you can do with the wind, if you have a lot of light bouncing off of it, I might have been confused with another one. There was a light shimmer in one of the winds, and I can't remember which one that is. Alright, and having this set on the tree means that it will export out, so you need to save it's in there. And I'm going to catch up on our questions and hopefully ask... Here we go. We had one comment about the fake Unreal Engine 4 in the material, and I actually don't know if it's vertex based or what that wind runs on, but yes, there are definitely other ways to get wind in there. Even in that pack that I had closed it down, but even in that pack that we downloaded, a lot of trees that you find out there either don't have wind or expect you to set it up, or that one just was like a very annoying wiggle. Wasn't too impressed with the trees in that pack, but might be a little biased. And then, and just to clear up, in the window properties, you guys are talking about the background image, or images for the background. So in SpeedTree, you can load in a 3D panorama. It's not a HDRI, which gets light or adds anything to the scene, but it can help you, visualize a scene, or you can grab a 3D one so that you can actually turn around and do a picture of your tree. I don't know if you guys play a lot around with this, but we have this render photo. I'm going to turn the wind off for this. in here, file, render photo. This is a great way to build up your portfolio if you don't want to waste a lot of time with a render. You'd want to get your scene somewhere where you like it. You can load in a image background instead of just a gradient there. We will use for a second here. I'm just gonna grab not an HDRI but a regular old photo. A very muted photo, and you can adjust the brightness and then get that ready. This is of Lebanon, which doesn't really work for an aspen tree, but it's going to be blurred out anyway, so if you were doing something real close on it, like looking up at the tree and maybe shining the light the way that the photo has it, or around. There we go. And then we're going to go to render photo. If you want the AO on, you want to hit O on your keyboard before you go to render photo. And then this guy's like a little render camera. It's real cute. You can just click where you want to focus, or you can do it manually. And we send these out all the time. It's just basically a fast, easy version of a render photo. Pretty much works like a camera. Bloom is going to be how much light is bouncing off of this guy, and that they cut out. And coming in V9, we do have some extra lighting options there, which HDRI support. So that's kind of what we're working on now. And it looks really great. I wish I had an image here to throw in to show you, if you're going to sneak peek at it. But maybe we'll have a chance to do that later. And I think that is about everything that we need to have on your game tree. And I'm going to put this back on regular. Next week we are going to be doing the brand new way to grow on things. So crawling over a wall and making a vine there. They've had lots of cool things, and we made that feature just 100 times easier to use. Collections was how you used to do that, and it definitely took a lot on the hard drive. It was just a little harder to use, and so we are going to start doing that. Alright, and let me make sure I got all the questions out of here. I don't actually know the licensing question there. I'm going to have some of the licensing specialists, if you guys can email and support for that question, or just message Danny directly or something. I will find out the answer for that one for you. Yeah, I'm really excited about next week. I found this cool wall we grabbed off of Quixel. And also, it's just fun to make things crawl. So, thanks for watching today. And I know we didn't do as much of the art today, more than just showing you where things were and what you needed to set for a game tree. But I hope we'll have a lot of fun next week. And thank you guys for chiming in.